In the vast expanse of Middle-earth, few names invoke as much fear and legend as that of the Witch-king of Angmar. He was the mightiest of the Nazgûl, Sauron's chief lieutenant, and a bringer of terror across the ages. His story, intertwined with the fate of kingdoms and the rise and fall of great powers, is one of ambition, corruption, and relentless evil. Who was this dread lord before he became the dark wraith that terrorized Middle-earth? How did a once great king among men fall so far into shadow? And what led him to become the embodiment of Sauron's will, feared by all? This is the tale of the Witch-king of Angmar, from his mortal beginnings to his final fateful defeat. Before he became the Witch-king, this figure was a man, powerful, respected, and perhaps even beloved. He was one of the great kings of men in the Second Age, a ruler whose name has been lost to time, but whose deeds would echo through history. He came from a noble lineage, ruling over a kingdom that flourished under his hand. However, like many of the greatest kings, his heart harbored ambition. He sought not just to rule his own land, but to extend his power beyond mortal bounds to secure his legacy for all time. It was this ambition, this desire for eternal glory, that made him susceptible to the whisperings of Sauron, disguised in his fair form as Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. Sauron, at this time, was slowly corrupting the great powers of Middle-earth, offering gifts of immeasurable value to elves, dwarves, and men. And to the kings of men, he offered something even more tempting, rings of power. One of these 9 rings was given to the king. He accepted it, believing it to be the key to his desires: eternal life, unyielding power, and control over his destiny. Little did he know that the ring would twist his mind and soul, binding him to the will of Sauron. In time, the ring did not just extend his life, it consumed it. The king's once noble intentions were eroded, replaced by a growing hunger for power and domination. His mortal form began to fade, and as he succumbed to the ring's influence, he became more and more a shadow of his former self. Eventually, his will was entirely enslaved to Sauron, and he became one of the 9, the Nazgûl. He was no longer a man but a wraith, bound to Sauron for eternity, cursed to wander Middle-earth as an agent of terror and death. He would become the Witch-king, the most feared of the Nazgûl, the Lord of the Nine, and his dominion over the realms of men was only just beginning. During the Third Age, Sauron's influence once again began to spread across Middle-earth. Though he had been defeated at the end of the Second Age, his spirit endured, and he sought to rebuild his power. He called upon his most loyal servant, the Witch-king, to raise a kingdom in the north, one that would be a scourge upon the free peoples of Middle-earth. Thus, the Witch-king established the realm of Angmar. Angmar was a land of death, ruled by the iron fist of the Witch-king. From his fortress at Carndum, he assembled an army of orcs, trolls, and evil men, all loyal to his cause. His goal was the destruction of the northern kingdom of Arnor, once a mighty kingdom of men descended from Númenor. The Witch-king waged a long and brutal campaign against Arnor, seeking to eradicate the descendants of the Númenorian kings and weaken the forces that could oppose Sauron. Over the course of centuries, he sowed discord among the rulers of Arnor, leading to civil war and division. By the time his armies marched upon Arnor, the kingdom was already weakened, fragmented into smaller rival factions. City after city fell to the Witch-king's forces. The men of Arnor fought valiantly, but they could not stand against the might of Angmar and the dark sorcery of the Witch-king. The kingdom of Arnor, once a beacon of strength in the north, was reduced to ruins. In the year 1974 of the Third Age, Fornos, the capital of Arnor, fell to the Witch-king's onslaught. The northern kingdom was no more, and the Witch-king's dominion over the north seemed absolute. Even in his moment of triumph, the Witch-king's reign was challenged. In response to the destruction of Arnor, the southern kingdom of Gondor, led by Prince Éowyn, marched north to confront the Witch-king. Aided by the elves of Rivendell, led by Glorfindel, the combined forces of men and elves met the Witch-king's army on the fields of Fornost. The Battle of Fornost was fierce and brutal. The Witch-king himself fought on the front lines, Wielding his dark sorcery to terrify and destroy his enemies, he sought to break the spirit of Gondor's forces and claim victory for Angmar. The Witch-king engaged Prince Arnor in single combat, and for a moment it seemed that he would strike down the heir to Gondor's throne, but fate had other plans. Glorfindel, the elf lord of Rivendell, arrived in time to intervene. His very presence struck fear into the Witch-king, forcing him to retreat, and as the Witch-king fled the battlefield, Glorfindel spoke a prophecy that would echo through the ages. Glorfindel's, quote, "Do not pursue him, far off yet is his doom, and not by the hand of man shall he fall." With the defeat of his armies and the loss of Angmar, the Witch-king's power in the north was broken. He fled back to Mordor, where he would bide his time, awaiting the moment when he could once again serve his master in the final war for Middle-earth. Though Angmar was no more, the Witch-king's role in the larger plans of Sauron was far from over. He returned to Mordor, where Sauron had been quietly rebuilding his strength. The Dark Tower of Barad-dûr was once again rising, and the time was coming for Sauron to reveal himself to the world. As the Lord of the Nazgûl, the Witch-king took command of Mordor's forces, preparing for the eventual return of Sauron's full power. He led the Nazgûl in the search for the One Ring, knowing that with its recovery, Sauron's dominion over Middle-earth would be complete. In the years leading up to the War of the Ring, the Witch-king's power only grew. He led the assault on Minas Ithil, capturing the city and turning it into his own fortress, Minas Morgul, the City of the Dead. From there, he launched attacks on Gondor, preparing for the final confrontation. As Sauron's war began in earnest, the Witch-king was given command of the assault on Gondor. He led a vast army to the city of Minas Tirith, where the greatest battle of the Third Age would be fought, the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. The Witch-king's presence on the battlefield was overwhelming. His mere arrival shattered the morale of Gondor's soldiers, and under his leadership the forces of Mordor battered the walls of Minas Tirith. He broke through the gates of the city, bringing doom to the defenders within. But even in this moment of near victory, the Witch-king's fate was sealed. As he moved to confront Gandalf, the arrival of Rohan's forces shifted the tide of battle. In the chaos of the battle, the Witch-king faced an unexpected opponent, Éowyn, the shield maiden of Rohan, and Merry, the hobbit. Though he dismissed her as insignificant, Éowyn's courage proved to be his undoing. Éowyn's quote, "I am no man." With a single stroke, Éowyn fulfilled Glorfindel's prophecy. The Witch-king of Angmar, Sauron's greatest servant, was no more. The Witch-king's fall marked the end of an era. His reign of terror spanned over 1,000 years, and his legacy as the most feared of Sauron's servants remains ingrained in the history of Middle-earth. He was a king who sought power beyond his grasp, and in doing so, he became a shadow of his former self, an instrument of evil. But even in his defeat, the tale of the Witch-king serves as a reminder of the corrupting nature of power and the inevitable downfall that awaits those who seek to dominate others. In the end, not even the mightiest of Sauron's servants could escape the fate that was foretold. The Witch-king's portrayal in both J.R.R. Tolkien's books and the Peter Jackson film adaptations presents an interesting comparison. In the books, his menace is primarily conveyed through the fear and despair he spreads. Tolkien describes him as a shadow of despair, a being whose presence causes men to freeze in terror. But how does this compare to the cinematic version? Jackson's portrayal emphasizes his physical dominance and battlefield prowess. The terrifying design of his armor, his powerful mace, and the iconic confrontation with Éowyn are among the most memorable moments of the film. But do you think the film captured the true essence of his terror, as Tolkien imagined it? Which version do you think was more effective in portraying the Witch-king's power, the shadowy psychological terror of the books, or the larger-than-life villain of the films? In the end, the Witch-king remains one of the most iconic villains in Tolkien's legendarium. His story is a tragic one, a tale of a king who sought power and fell into darkness, becoming an instrument of Sauron's will. His legacy endures, not just as a fearsome warlord, but as a symbol of how power can corrupt, twist, and ultimately destroy. So what do you think was the Witch-king's most defining moment? Was it his conquest of Angmar, his confrontation with Gandalf at Minas Tirith, or perhaps his final showdown with Éowyn? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the dark history of the Witch-king of Angmar. If you enjoyed this exploration of Middle-earth's greatest villains, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more deep dives into Tolkien's legendarium. Until next time, may the light of Arendelle guide you.